Well, welcome everyone. Please do mute yourself. You're free to turn on your video if you'd like, or leave it off. It's up to you. We will keep ours on here as the panelists. Again, so welcome to tonight, College and Career Ready Night. We are excited about doing this and having this format. It's worked well for us for a couple of years. My name is Jeff Wardle. I'm the principal at Buffalo Grove High School. And it's an honor to be your moderator here tonight. Let me start by just introducing our panelists. And so I will introduce them. I'm also going to share my screen here just for a second and kick us off there. And then I will allow them to introduce themselves. But here, let me share my screen. All right. So hopefully this is the one you thought you were coming to. So the Audiovisual Technology and Communications Pathway. Here I am your moderator tonight, Jeff Wardle. So let's start here with Matt Gill. Matt is from Eastern Illinois University. Matt, would you introduce yourself and kind of your partnership, how you are connected with District 214?
Yeah, hi, I'm Matt Gill. I am the chair of the School of Communication Journalism down at Eastern. And we are the dual credit partner with D214. And so we handle the college and university side of the courses that are a part of the pathway.
Great, thank you so much. Also want to welcome Sharon Shamoun. Sharon, can you introduce yourself as well?
Sure, Sharon Shlamon. I work for Netrix, employee experience manager. I'm connected with Pathway. I have two students. I'm kind of a community mentor. I have two students currently at Prospect, 11th grader and a 9th grader.
Great, thank you so much. Linda, how about you? Could you share your role in District 214? You're on mute still, I think.
My name is Linda Shida, and I serve I'm the second year in my role in the community engagement and outreach department, serving as a project manager and facilitating communications across all platforms with my colleagues.
Thank you very much. Steph, let's move on to you, District 214 teacher.
Hi there, my name is Stephanie McClish, and I am one of the multimedia teachers over at Buffalo Grove High School. Formerly taught journalism and kind of was one of the founding members, I guess, of putting together this pathway with my partner in crime, Will.
And then let's move on to Will and kind of your background and how you got connected here to this pathway as well.
Sure. So Will Hansen, I am the other half of the multimedia pathway at Buffalo Grove High School. My background is in business and technology. I formerly was the media tech teacher for a handful of years at Buffalo Grove. And then Steph and I have been co-teaching the multimedia pathway now for 2 years.
Great. Thank you so much. You should see in front of you just a brief, I'll quickly just go through this slide. This is just kind of the general overview of the pathway of multimedia communications. You can see kind of bottom left, that larger square are just the graduation requirements for District 214 in our core areas. And then kind of above in that red, what you see is what the multimedia pathway could look like if you began freshman year. They're kind of semesterized courses. As you can see, there are a lot of options. If you start as a sophomore, it's okay. You can jump right in even later if you need to. But if you do start freshman year, boy, you can get a lot of experience and even a lot of dual credit classes. And then kind of on the right-hand side are just some options you could look at as well, as far as maybe some clubs or some activities or just ways to show leadership. Of course, the newspaper and the yearbook and speech team and different, even athletics just for leadership. And then what typical four-year universities might want you to have more than the Board of Education graduation requirements to get into that university. So I will stop sharing my screen now so we can have just a better view of all of our faces. And let's jump right in. I'm going to start with our two teachers, with Steph and with Will. I know you two were instrumental in actually getting this going even at the district level. Tell us about how these two worlds kind of merged and what your goals were of this pathway in the first place.
Okay, I can talk first and then Will, you can jump in for anything I miss. But Will and I actually had been talking about this for a number of years when we initially had met each other when he was teaching media tech and I was teaching journalism. And we had always thought that they kind of would make a nice merger together. The field of journalism has changed a lot. And a lot of people like to say that it's dying. Something that I like to say is that it's not dying, it's just evolving and changing. And it's our responsibility as educators to make sure that we are, evolving with that and making sure that we're preparing our students. So we kind of merged a bunch of different things. Us co-teaching with Will's background in broadcast and sort of that media tech world and my background in journalism and more of the writing aspects just worked really well together. And so currently in our introductory course, our students are kind of getting a taste of everything. We have a lot of guest speakers that come in. Mark Lazarus, who writes for The Athletic, actually just joined us. We're going to be having a podcaster coming in. Someone from ABC7 is going to be coming in, and also just exposing them to podcast, broadcast, the newspaper, some yearbook stuff, just so they can see what they like and have that exposure. And then what else would you say, Will?
Yeah, I would just say, I think the biggest thing that is great about the way we have things structured is the ability to push students out of their comfort zone. I think we have a lot of students that come in that know that they're very good at, let's say, camera work. But having all of the kind of collective brains in one place really allows us to push them out of their comfort zone, and maybe realize that they're even also as good as camera as they are at writing, and that those things are they go so well with each other. I think too, with the changing of journalism, those are skills that are expected out of future employees. It's that you can't just be good at one thing anymore. You have to be kind of a jack of all trades. You have to be comfortable, not just writing, but also doing photography and videography and posting on social media. So that's been my favorite thing out of the merger, is just that the kids now get a taste of everything, and it makes them such well-rounded individuals.
And I would say too, one last thing is just that our students were already working together outside of class hours and kind of asking each other for help and leaning on each other for the other talents that they have. So this has just made us even stronger. And now we have an entire kind of umbrella term. We like to call it BGN, which is the Buffalo Grove Network. And that houses all of our different publications kind of under one roof.
Great, thank you. Sharon, if we kind of move over to you, you're one of our industry partners, very valuable. Tell us just how you got involved with District 214 and as an industry partner, and maybe what has that led to as far as working with students?
Oh yeah, I think a couple of years ago, I think before COVID, we got an email about if parents wanted to volunteer, if they were in business professions and they wanted to volunteer their time to coach and mentor the students in the community. And I'm just, it's my passion, right, to pay it forward in life. And that's how I got engaged and got really involved. It's really helped the students. They listened to, the last time I think I was involved, it was 2 years ago, and we were talking about the importance of social media and personal branding and how it's so important not to push out everything out on social media, especially, these are young students, right? They're juniors, seniors going to college. Once things are pushed out on social media, it's out there, right? So I actually teach my kids. It's like, you got to think before you put stuff out there. So, and it's also a part of your personal brand, right? As a professional, and, kids graduate and they go to college, it's so important to have a professional, personal brand, and that's how people are going to know you. So I think that's a good key takeaway. Do you want me to elaborate more about the roles? Because what I graduated in, do you want me to do that, or we'll come back to that?
Yeah, so that would be great if you can just, when you graduated and also students graduate maybe now and are interested in this field, what kind of training would be valuable for them to begin a job in this field?
And okay, I graduated from DePaul, and my degree's in business management, business administration, and it's a broad range, right? So you can go in the path of communications, you can go in the path of HR, which is kind of nice, marketing, finance, which is kind of nice because when you're younger, and I put myself in when I was a senior or, just going to college, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. So I always, that's why like a broad range of a degree with a business degree. And then there's specializations and certifications. So if somebody wants to take just journalism, then there's a lot of the universities are being, like Stephanie said, they're evolving the way they educate students now. Everything's tech savvy, just so you can be a well-rounded student and an employee. Another key tip I would tell the students that are listening to us is, start networking. I mean, you're never too young to start talking to people, talk to parents. You guys are hanging out with your friends. And I always ask the kids that come to my house, and I'm like, so what do your parents do? And, those parents can help those kids network. They can help the kids intern, so internship is another piece. Get engaged. It can start as early as before the kids going into college.
That's great advice. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Matt, if we turn over to you a little bit, through Eastern Illinois, which has just been a wonderful partner for us at District 214. So if a student is interested in this pathway, what are some of the options maybe at Eastern Illinois University that they could move into, or majors they could pursue in this pathway?
Yeah, and I think it's a broad answer to that, right? Because in the School of Communication and Journalism, we actually have 11 different majors across 5 different degrees. And so I think kind of what Stephanie and Will were talking about at the start of this was it's really about a foundation and then being adaptable and flexible and finding ways to evolve. So we have 5 different undergraduate degrees, one certainly in journalism, one in communication, another one in public relations, another in health communication, and a final one in television and video production. And when we talk about kind of the skill sets that the students are developing in the pathway, those kind of ability to write, ability to research information and figure out a way to communicate it back, the skill set to be behind the camera, doing video, doing some basic audio production, that kind of skill set builds into any one of those majors and in a variety of different ways, right? So maybe there's more direct, like I'm going to work with a camera in my hand in something like television video production, or maybe in broadcast journalism. But that skill set has become imperative in pretty much every communication field, right? So we need that same skill set if you're going to be an effective health advocacy communicator nowadays. We need that same one if you're going to be in public relations nowadays and create content for different organizations. So I always think about kind of our space as a playground with lots of different equipment that students can play on, but we're all part of kind of a same overall skill set and value system that the students can kind of mix and match and really go where their interests ultimately lie. You want me to, I can keep talking.
I'd love for you to, and talk a little bit about the opportunities when students are maybe at EIU in this pathway, as far as maybe internships, or where you've been able to land some jobs, some of those career options, even during or after post high school.
Yeah, there's really a lot of benefits to this skill set. One of them is there's an unbelievable amount of flexibility. So if you think about internships, even just on campus, we certainly have students who work down in WEIU television, WEIU radio. We have students who work with the theater department nowadays, filming, different plays and doing editing that way. We have students who work with athletics on campus, shooting games, and even working with the ESPN 3 or Plus or whatever it's called now, the trucks that come to campus. And so there's a lot of different on-campus opportunities from a content creation standpoint. We have students who run social media accounts on campus, who do all of that kind of stuff. Off campus, there's a lot of opportunities as well. I would say every semester, I probably get somewhere between 7 and 10 phone calls from local area, kind of central Illinois businesses looking for students to come work for them, to do a variety of things, to shoot video, to run social media accounts, to, oh, we have this great thing that we want them to do X, Y, and Z, whatever that might be. And so they've had a lot of success in that. Our students also have had a lot of success going internships in sort of over the summer, usually in Chicago and St. Louis and Indianapolis, whether that's, television stations for the kids who want to go into journalism or newspapers. Certainly, we've had a lot of kids at big PR firms like Goldwyn Harris and Edelman and stuff like that. When they leave, and this is really one of the benefits of this entire space, is that the skill set is very enduring, it's very transferable, and it provides them a lot of opportunities and possibilities when they go and graduate. So when they leave, we have students kind of everywhere in all sorts of things, right? So we have students who are behind camera and doing work producing, video on The Bachelor. And then I have students working for Starbucks in St. Louis in Seattle doing public relations, right? So it's a wide array of opportunities. And the ones that are always really impressive to me are the ones that I never even thought about or knew existed. We had a video production student a couple of years ago get a job at the University of Illinois doing multi-camera shoots for professors for online classes. So that's not a job title that you think about when you go into the career, but they were getting paid pretty well to essentially set up a room and do those online shoots for those online classes. And so there's a lot of different opportunities. In non-pandemic years, we're usually well over 90% positive placement after graduation. The last year has been odd. So we fell a little bit below 90, but we're still well above 85. It's just kind of a strange thing, but the skill set is very in demand across a variety of fields and industries. And that's what makes it kind of a real valuable get.
Yeah. Well, I think you hit a very important point of not just, not just branding, but also knowing how to brand. I mean, I think just about every institution, public, private, is looking to have that done and done well. And so this would be a great pathway for just about any area. Linda, let me move over to you. You're really on the high school side and have worked with our students while they're 14 to 18 these high school years. Tell me about maybe some of the experiences that you've already seen, maybe directly or indirectly with students in internships, or what opportunities are out there for students right here while they're in District 214 schools.
Sure. I like what Matt said about the playground of opportunities to explore in the different skill areas, and that idea of the interdisciplinary skill sets that students develop. And what I love about the opportunities before they even graduate high school with our internships and apprenticeships, they really get a chance to engage in those real world experiences. And to give you some examples, we have in the last several years hosted both interns and apprentices. And I'll use the example of Maeve, who's an apprentice with us this year. And what that means, as opposed to an internship, is it's actually a paid position, and there are identified criteria that she meets along the way through the apprenticeship. So it's a little bit more formal perhaps than the internship, but just this, in the first quarter alone, Maeve wrote an article to accompany a video we produced that was published on the District 214 website and in the Daily Herald. She shadowed a news crew and then went with our communication coordinator, Stephanie Kim, to Prospect High School to film the docuplay and submitted it to the news stations, and it actually ran on TV, and she was actually held the camera and got some of the shots, and she then takes the content and posts to social media. And so she just really is like a teammate on our team and gets the experience with video, creating content for all those platforms: video, social media, website, media content. So it's really exciting. And actually, Stephanie Kim, our communications coordinator, said she was a junior in college before she was even able to have some of those experiences. Wow. So I think of what Matt said is they'll then go on to their college campuses with some exploration. For example, Maeve realized, gosh, maybe video editing isn't what I really love to do, but she has that exploration opportunity and just prepares her even more for the kind of experiences in college that Matt described.
And so that's another important part of these pathways, right? Is if you can find out while you're 17 or 18, I don't like this area, but I'd more like this area before you get your paid job and you're wondering what to do about that. And it's not your passion. So that's a great example. Thanks for bringing that up, Linda. Let me jump back to our teachers. Will, I understand that there's a kind of a unique opportunity at Buffalo Grove this coming Friday night in this pathway with some of our students. Tell us about that a little bit, how that came about.
So football. We went into last week thinking that Buffalo Grove Network and our live stream crew was going to be covering that game. But because of kind of the scale of the game and the team's records, Comcast is going to be coming in and actually broadcasting the game. So kind of the compromise was that they are allowing our students to kind of be with them that evening and run through everything from setup to kind of the prep to actually shadowing the industry partners, the Comcast employees during the event. So we're going to have students who are going to get some great connections with Comcast. Some are going to actually be allowed to go in their production van and see all of the different equipment kind of from their hub. We're going to have students who are going to be sitting with the on-air commentators during the game and getting some great advice to them on how they prepare. And then we'll also have students with the camera operators during the game, and they'll get to kind of talk with them about, what does that look like, the prep work going into a game, during the game, after the game. So we're really excited. The kids are excited. And like Matt said, to make some of those connections. I was talking to one of my students today who really wants to pursue a career as a camera operator. I was like, make sure you talk to those guys, because these are people that are going to be able to give you the best advice on what to do and how to prepare. If this is something that you really want to do, start making those connections now. So we're really excited for Friday.
Awesome. And I think that's one of the unintended consequences of having a pathway. Suddenly, you get to work with professionals in this way that you might not have ever thought of. And, along those lines, Steph, let me just ask you a question. You've been doing this now for a long time, but then this pathway now just for the last couple of years. What's been maybe a surprise or just an enjoyment that you found that maybe you didn't expect within this pathway with the students that you've worked with?
I think for me, I have been doing this for a long time. This is my 10th year involved in the program at Buffalo Grove, and I taught somewhere else 4 years doing journalism. And so I think what's been kind of great for me, and I told the administration this as we move this way, is that I either had to evolve myself or I needed to get out of the way and let somebody else do it. And that was a kind of a hard decision to make, because it was brand new territory for me. A lot of this broadcast stuff and the live stream stuff is so out of my comfort zone. And so when Will talks about getting out of our comfort zones, I've had to do a lot of that myself too. One of the things that I kind of oversee now that I never experienced was podcasting. And my students have taught me a lot about podcasting, which is great, but I've learned a lot too. And it's actually a lot easier than I thought. And so, it's cool now that I have this brand new skill set that I never had. And my students are seeing me learn and seeing Will learn and kind of experiencing that along with us. But what's so great is seeing them take those leadership roles like Linda is talking about, and seeing them get excited. Like our students just interviewed the mayor of Buffalo Grove for our most recent podcast that's about to come out next week. They wanted to do that. They were like, hey, can we reach out to the mayor? And I was like, yes, go ahead. And they're like, well, the reason we want to is because she used to be an educator and they did all this research on her, and they are just really taking the reins. And it's just so awesome to see them so invested and so driven and so passionate. I mean, these pathways really are passion projects. Will and I really get to pursue our own passions and what we are passionate about and what we love to teach about, and at the same time help our students pursue those things as well. So it's been just so exciting and so fun, and we're so lucky.
Steph, thanks for mentioning that. I think it's so interesting that those of us that are educators, we got into this field and thinking, we're here to teach, and we are, and we do a lot of that, right? But at the end of the day, especially I think within these pathways, we are here to expose our students to areas that they think they might love. And when they find out that that is their niche, it almost is get out of the way. It just empower them, equip them, and unleash them just to do, fail forward, try, make mistakes, but find those things out. The excitement of, interviewing the mayor live on a podcast and presenting it to, the entire school or, anyone online, the entire world, is so much different than being told you have to read this article and underline the verbs and the nouns. I mean, like, I'm not saying that's what we do, but the difference of just the energy and enthusiasm when you have a pathway, that's what you love, is contagious. And Sharon, let me jump back to you along kind of those lines of just continuing to kind of reinvent ourselves in the industry that you've been in for a little while. Tell us about how the industry has changed, over the time that you've been in there, and if maybe what a typical day looks like now in your industry.
Yeah, sure. Netrix is a technology company, and we're also a Microsoft partner. So we do everything in the tech space. Well, technology has really helped with a lot of, now there's all kinds of tools and resources and lots of collaboration between the tools. I'm sure everyone's reading that on the news. Like, for example, like Microsoft, as a Microsoft partner, like they just sent a new product out on the field. It's called Viva. It's an employee experience tool. And that tool helps companies, people like in my position, right? Because my role is employee experience / communications, HR. It helps, like, instead of writing our newsletters in this template that we do every month, we just input some ideas and they put in the bells and whistles. So to everyone's kind of, there's this theme about evolving and changing. Technology is rapidly helping us, right? Another tool that I think is awesome, it's called Grammarly out there, that I use when I'm writing, right? When I'm writing, because I always say writing is an art, right? We come from different culture experiences. Some people speak 2 or 3 languages. I do. And sometimes, like, I read something and then my colleague reads something and I'm like, oh my God. So then I push it through a Grammarly. So the tools are out there for the students. It's a lot easier than when I went to school, right? And how I learned how to type. So it's definitely, it's rapidly changing. So my advice to the students is be hungry to learn. There's a lot out there, network, and like you just said earlier, Jeff, it's okay. You can make mistakes. You can go and learn something like production. My daughter was talking about being a journalist, actually. She's like, I want to go to Northwestern. And she's like, well, I kind of like the engineering side. And then now she's part of the tech club. So this is the time to learn, and try everything. And, communications, if you want to stay and be a journalist, that's great. But, it could also fall into marketing or HR. So to what, who was saying, Matt said, you get a communications degree. You're not going to always say to yourself, you're not going to be in that position for the rest of your life. You're going to always change and grow. And that, I think that skill set you're going to use throughout your life. To be, a perfect communicator and how to put things in writing. Yeah, as you can see, I'm kind of passionate when I speak about it, but yeah.
For sure, it's coming across. No, thank you for that. And
sure.
Matt, let me ask you, you got into, post high school education, post-secondary ed, but yet at Eastern, you're choosing to work with high school kids, and you guys have provided so many dual credit courses with us, and a great partner. Why do you do that? What's the advantage to you to really work with high school age kids and help them maybe develop kind of their passion, or see if that's an area of passion for them? Tell me about that, just kind of about that connection and what it means to EIU.
Well, I think in a pathway like this, right, the students who are participating in a pathway that is really focused, rather than a gen ed kind of course, right? Because we do speech too as a gen ed, and that's a very different kind of beast. But in something like this, you're dealing with students who are extraordinarily engaged, right? Who are really passionate about what they're doing and are interested and are really excited about some of those possibilities that are not necessarily available, right, at this point in time, right? So they're very future oriented. They're kind of looking into what they could ultimately go do. They get a taste of it in really kind of cool ways at the high school level, and then they can say, well, how does this now translate? And I think for someone like me, right, and I think about all of our programs in the space that we work in, we are not, for most of our programs, not socialized into a young kid's sort of work language, right? Like you talk to most, my daughter's 13, my oldest daughter. And so she's in 8th grade. And if you say, what do you want to do? Like, she's going to give the same list as most kids, right? Like, oh, I'm going to be a vet. I want to be a doctor. I might go in business, right? And so there's not a lot of opportunities where students look up and go, I want to be, I want to work in public relations. I want to be a social media manager. I want to be this, right? And so this is a really fun opportunity to work with students in a way who are excited and interested in the kinds of things that we do, and then say, well, wait a second, here's an entire world that can open up to you. And a lot of times they don't even know those things exist at college because it's not those kind of experiences that you typically get in a sort of a walking in kind of way. And part of that's the way in which we search for colleges, right? You turn to a sophomore or junior, you say, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? And they list what they know, and then you go search for schools. And so this is a real opportunity to get someone excited, someone who's already excited about something, and have an impact and be able to kind of talk to them about the opportunities that are there.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point that, we really do only know what we know, and until we have exposure to other areas and people, professions, and ideas that can just, spark in us something that we didn't maybe even know was there. And maybe, along those lines, let me go back to kind of Steph and Will. I know a lot of what we do in Pathways is bring in outside experts and talk about their careers and their lives and what it's like. So can you talk about just maybe some of the folks we've brought in, either at BG or maybe other schools that you know of in this pathway, and kind of those different types of experiences that we will expose our students to?
Sure. So I can talk a little bit. I mentioned we brought in Mark Lazarus, who writes for The Athletic. He exclusively covers the Blackhawks. He's been doing that for a number of years. And so we recently just had him Zoom in, which has been awesome. Actually, Zoom has been provided us great opportunities to bring in some guest speakers that maybe we had more difficulty scheduling to be in person beforehand. Northwestern actually has a program where they partner with local high schools and set them up with a long list of different guest speakers. And then you just they provide the list to any high school who wants it. You just contact those individuals who are willing, and you set up different guest speakers to come in. We have one we really want a guest speaker for podcasting. So we have one that's going to be coming in. Like I mentioned, we have someone from ABC7 who's going to be coming in. So we're trying to hit all of the different areas. Will was able to bring in this gentleman named Chu, who actually used to work more in the commercial side of things, but then now started his own company, kind of, shooting commercials, shooting things, doing all this editing. He kind of runs the whole thing and does everything from the shooting and the lighting to the editing, the creative elements of it. So it's been awesome. And the students will tell us that those guest speakers are the thing that stays with them. It's their favorite thing. They have the opportunity to ask questions to people who are in the field, especially now kids want to know, how did your job work during COVID? Like when the Blackhawks weren't playing, or when certain people weren't allowed in the locker room anymore, how did that work? And, do you have relationships with these people? And how do you start off, right? So they get to ask all of these questions to people who are in it. And I think that just gives them that really, like, this is real, like you could really do this. And that's where they start to see themselves kind of in those careers and in those roles.
I think, to that point too, I think imagining yourself and seeing kind of a role model almost. And in so many areas, we don't even see a role model, what that could look like, and say, oh, I can see myself doing that as well. So that's great how you bring that in. Linda, let me jump back to you. this is kind of a second career for you in this kind of multimedia type pathway. Tell us a little bit about, kind of reinventing yourself and when that started and how you got kind of into this different role that you have now.
Sure. Speaking of evolving, I'm another case study in evolution in terms of career. Excuse me. I was a teacher in District 214 for 33 years. And from there, then just in the last few years of my role as a teacher and instructional coach, realized that there was a real power in social media to connect us and share our learning with colleagues. But then I also started realizing I worked a little bit with students in the education pathway and realized, well, if they then embrace social media, they could form connections across schools with their peers in the programs across schools, but also they could build their social media, their professional portfolio via social media, and have opportunities then for the future, whether college or career. So, and I actually remember fondly a student who was waitlisted, but a division chair saw her social media portfolio and said, wait a minute, we need to take a second look at your application. So I just was really intrigued about the power of, not social media, but media platforms and storytelling and building connections and networking, which then led me to an unexpected opportunity in the communications department, community engagement and outreach. So then from there, being a teacher, I just had this love of working with students. So it was a natural fit then when the opportunity to host interns and apprentices in our department became a part of my role. And it was just a new way for me to engage with students that I just have really loved. And when we talk about partnerships with our post-secondary institutions and then the multimedia programs, across the district, we partner with Stephanie and Will have been great resources, as have been the other multimedia programs. You can tell I'm passionate too. I could go on and on. But what I really love is it engages students in creating content and creating work for real audiences in all different ways that can connect to their passions or help them discover passions they didn't even realize they had. It's a lot of fun. So if there are parents or students out there that are wondering about the pathway, dive in, dip your toes in the water. There's so many potential experiences. And if you decide you don't like it, you can shift, and there are so many opportunities.
Well, I think that is a great wrap up, Linda. Thank you for just kind of bringing this all together. I know we are the first of 3 possible sessions that folks from around the area, students, prospective students, or parents can jump on. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up tonight. I want to thank again Sharon and Matt and Linda and Will and Steph. Thank you so much for being panelists and for all you are doing for our students in this pathway and in so many other ways everywhere. So thank you so much. Hope you guys jump on to another session if you have a chance to later on this evening, and have a wonderful night, everybody. Thank you.